And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And today we are going to dive into a really late movie review of the movie 1776. Now, there are a lot of movies that talk about the Declaration of Independence, okay? Whether it's tangentially, like you might get with National Treasure, or just full on, let's deal with all the drama surrounding it. There are several. But how many of them are musical comedies? Yep, 1776 is in fact one of those. And it is fun and serious and lightly comedic, and I'm sure that they often broke into song in Philadelphia while they were doing this. No, but in all seriousness, 1776 is a fun movie. It's serious in that it doesn't shy away from some of the debates that they had on the floor. Now, let me back up and we'll talk a little bit about how the movie is framed. So it's primarily follows John Adams, played by William Daniels, who voiced Kit in Knight Rider, the car. Yeah, that same guy. But he played John Adams, and Adams is sort of the driver in the movie for declaring independence from England, okay? And he's not the only one. And you get a little bit in the background, of course. Benjamin Franklin has been doing a lot in the background. You've got a number of people who are actually fully signed on to the cause, but primarily it's, in the movie, it's Adams who's driving it, okay? And you see, it's like he's there in the Continental Congress, and he's having problems getting people to even vote on the stupid thing. Not just voting on the Declaration of Independence, but voting to even vote, right? I'm trying to remember exactly what the procedure was, but to even open debate on declaring independence, okay? Now, remember where this is in the timeline, okay? This is 1776, surprisingly enough, right? 1775, you had Concord and Lexington, where British soldiers went to seize cache of arms at the cities of Concord and Lexington, and the Americans resisted that to the point of gunfire. They used to teach about the shot heard round the world. No one knows who actually fired that first shot on Lexington Green, but it led to an exchange of gunfire that drove the British out of those towns. So yeah, it was, it's been a year, right? England has declared the United Colonies in rebellion. The Continental Congress has formed an army and tasked George Washington to go lead that army, okay? So this is sort of the background, right? And Adams and a number of New England people in reality, but in the movie, it's mostly Adams trying to drive this like, hey, it's time. We need to declare independence from England, and let's go. All right, so that's where this starts. But turns out John Adams is not particularly well liked, okay? There's a whole song. It's the main point of the song is that Adams is obnoxious and disliked, okay? And it's fairly well true. So it starts following this process. Now, how strictly historically accurate it is, that's probably up for debate. But as a movie that hits the high points of what was going on, some of the challenges and things like that, they convince Richard Henry Lee to go back to Virginia and bring back a declaration that says, hey, the colony of Virginia says that we should declare independence, okay? This is important for a couple of reasons. One, because Adams is obnoxious and disliked, and two, it's a colony outside of New England, okay, which is important because there are a couple of those colonies, like that said their instructions were, if a colony outside of New England comes out in support of independence, we're going to join them, right? So you start seeing some of these dominoes fall. All right, and then you see, all right, now here comes Thomas Jefferson, who's going to write it. This is hilarious, okay? And I'll tell you, there's obviously it's a musical. There's a lot of music in this movie. Some of it is so catchy. I mean, it's been 2 days. I still have "The Lees of Old Virginia," which Richard Henry Lee sings before heading off to Virginia to get the resolution on independence. But there is a song that is, they've got their declaration committee, right? It's John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Roger Sherman, and oh darn, I always forget the guy from New York, Livingston from old New York. Yeah. So you get these 5 are the declaration committee, and they're going through, all right, who's going to write this? It's like, well, John Adams is out because he's obnoxious and disliked. That's the whole point of the song. And they're going through, they're each giving their excuses. Okay, Ben Franklin, he's a writer, but writes light extemporanea, as he describes it. Then you've got Roger Sherman, who's the cobbler, who's just a cobbler, right? He's not a writer in any way, shape, or form. You've got Livingston, who he's just found out that his son is born. His wife's just given birth. He's going back to New York, and that leaves Jefferson, who really he wants to go home too because he hasn't seen his wife in 6 months, and he has a deep desire to see his wife. So that's fun, and that sets up Jefferson writing it. And obviously, the Declaration of Independence is amazing, but it's so fun as they just layer some of these songs and stuff. What's interesting from Adam's perspective is the movie quotes a lot of his letters that he writes back to his wife, Abigail. And there are a number of scenes where they take that written correspondence and turn it into a conversation back and forth, as if he in Philadelphia were speaking to Abigail in Boston. But this is his outlet of his, as he's voicing his concerns, and it's where he can show weakness that he can't show, when he's on the floor of Congress, right? But a lot of those letters also include stuff that gets wrapped into other dialogue elsewhere or other songs. Yeah, he opens, the movie opens, he gets called down because he's needed to vote on an important bit of legislation is the wrong word, but it's something. Remember, the Continental Congress doesn't exactly have any authority to make laws or anything at this point. Yeah, he comes down. It's like, I have come to the conclusion that 1 useless man is a disgrace, 2 useless men become a law firm, and 3 or more become a Congress. And then he just rails about how useless this Congress is. Proof that nothing ever changes. But yeah, the whole song, Piddle, Twiddle, and Resolve, sets the tone as he's dealing with his frustrations, right? The song "Sit Down, John." It's like, will you just shut up? Right? We're tired of you talking about independence. Sit down, right? But the movie progresses, and so you go from, okay, Jefferson writes the declarations, now presented, now comes the debate. And while a lot of the movie set is fun, right? It's a light comedy, okay? We're not talking about, huge gales of laughter and stupidity, okay? It's fun comments from Ben Franklin, who actually was apparently a bit of a, I don't know, I would say comedian might be a little wrong, but he had a sense of humor, right? And, he'll, and he might drop some pearl of wisdom. You might recognize some of them from various Franklin quotes because he was quotable. And Adam says, I don't have time to sit here all day and listen to you quote yourself. Right? There's definitely some fun banter here. And, is in the song, when I was trying to convince Thomas Jefferson now to write the Declaration of Independence, there's a small bit where they're singing about, Jefferson about, Mr. Adams, you are driving me to homicide. And they start singing about homicide, homicide. Yeah, it's just fun. Okay. But again, this is, there's some serious things going on, because you come into the actual debates of the Declaration, right? And this was an uphill slog. There's the pressure to, one, make it unanimous that every state had to vote for declaring independence, right? Because, hey, we don't want to be putting brother against brother, right? We don't want to have the different colonies fighting each other, as the country's trying to become independent. And there's a lot of drama that shows up. You've got Delaware, who has been supportive of independence, at least as a delegation, until Caesar Rodney goes home. He goes home because of his health. I don't remember if he had a heart attack or something. He had cancer. And eventually this was sort of overcoming him, and he went home to rest. But that means Delaware is now divided. And that, how do we deal with that? And historically, the ride of Caesar Rodney to go 80 miles while dying of cancer so he can be there to vote for independence is a huge landmark in the history of Delaware. In fact, when they came out with those quarters a while back that had, each state had its own little thing on each quarter, Delaware had the ride of Caesar Rodney stamped on theirs. Okay. And while you don't see the ride, seeing them come in just weather stained and we're here to vote, right? You've got the very serious debate. And this is, they don't pull a lot of punches on this one. In order to get South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia to sign on to the Declaration of Independence, they have to remove a clause that Jefferson wrote about slavery and the abolition of slavery. And, slavery is a horrific practice. It always has been, always will be. But there was a reality there that, well, Adams and so many others, no, we need to not have slavery in our new country. There comes that debate of, well, maybe, and to put it in terms of that I have printed on a cup here, that's a problem for future me. It becomes a point where it's okay, if we are going to declare independence, we need these southern states to come with us. And that means we are going to have to put up with this for now. And we will deal with it after we are free from England. Okay. And now it takes 100 years for that to happen and millions of dead. But it was a start. And boy, they lay out those debates. There's the song is powerful. It's sung by the delegate from South Carolina who's sort of leading that side of the argument for slavery, and laying out, you know, the triangle trade, which is like, okay, yes, the slaves are in Charleston and, you know, the South, but the ships that are bringing them are from Boston, right? And for those of you who are not necessarily versed in American history, you know, they had ships from New England that they would load up with goods from America. The song calls out Bibles and rum, but other goods as well, would then sail to Africa, offload those, onload the enslaved people, and take them back to Charleston, and set other places in the South, and then take more stuff up north. So yeah, that whole thing was, it's like, yeah, guess what? New England, Massachusetts, Boston, John Adams, your people are not exactly the innocent in this whole endeavor, okay? And as they go back and forth, you know, it's like, it comes down to, yes, do we declare independence and then we'll take the next step, or do we let this die now? And that's one of those questions that, you know, yes, I personally would have loved it if slavery had been ended with the Declaration of Independence. It wasn't. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And sometimes those compromises have to be made, and it sucks, but as they have that debate of what is important here. Let's become independent. Let's declare independence from England. Let us free ourselves from their tyranny, and then we'll look to our own house. And yeah, that took a while to sort out, but those debates, all of the back and forth of how can we get all of the support we need to make this vote unanimous, it's intense. And yes, there's still a little humor sprinkled throughout it. It was such a serious and intense time, right? You sit there, it's like, yeah, we are in revolution. We are declaring independence. We are committing treason against our country, right? This is not an easy decision to make. And even though, yes, the movie 1776 lays it out in music and comedy, it doesn't shy away from that. It doesn't shy away from how serious this actually was. But I watched this, though, and so many of the songs really pull out some of that emotion, which is the whole point of a musical, okay? The idea behind a musical, at least initially, was that you get to a point where the only way you can express the emotions you're feeling is through song, right? That's sort of how it goes. Like your character is going through this big emotional arc, and finally their emotions are so big that only music can get them to express those feelings, right? That's sort of how a musical works, okay? But there is a song John Adams sings. It's the day before the vote, and another dispatch has come in from George Washington. And a lot of these letters from Washington have been sort of setting the stage of what's going on. So, you know, he talks about his troops are poorly trained. They have no arms, no ammunition, no food, no money. I've now ordered the evacuation of Manhattan. We're setting up on the Brooklyn Heights because the British are coming. And we are going to stand and fight them, because what else can we do? And Adams, he's rereading this letter, and Washington includes in the letter, is anybody there? does anybody care? Because Washington is looking at the potential death of so many young men who have showed up to defend what is hopefully to become a new nation. And in the song, Is Anybody There? Adams, he sees the future, okay? And I'm not talking about in some sort of prophetic Nostradamus, type of way. It's, he sees the celebrations. He sees America free. He's laying out his dream of liberty. But he's also sitting there saying, with echoing Washington's thoughts, does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? And it is such a powerful song. And there are a lot of those. Now, I grew up watching this movie. I watched it a lot as a kid because I was weird. All right. Apparently the copy I had on the VHS, and we had a boxed VHS, but apparently it was edited. There is a song that was just completely cut out that when I got the DVD and had the full movie, was Slow Considerate Men or something like that. It's Pennsylvania and the South singing about how, we are not going to take this in a hurry. We're not going to, be ruled by our passions and all of this stuff. And it's a lot of back patting. Okay. And also probably the weakest song in the movie. To be honest, I understand why they might have cut it from the VHS when it came out. But yeah, there's so many of these songs that you listen to and as you follow the drama, it's like, wow, this is really cool. Okay. And yes, I'll be the first to admit, how historically accurate is it? Well, the high points are there, right? The declaration is there. The names of the people are right. There's definitely the sides and the arguments were right. Obviously they didn't break into song. I have no idea if Adams and John Dickinson got into a fight on the congressional floor over this. Okay. Yeah, in the movie, they whip out their walking sticks and they attack each other. Okay. That's because Adams ends up calling Dickinson a coward. It is still, for all of that, right? All of the jokes and the songs, it is a powerful look at the foundational document of the United States of America. The idea that we can be more, right? We are, I think as Franklin puts it in the movie, we are a new nation, and he lays out, coarser, less refined, more wild, but we are a new people. We're not Englishmen anymore. We are Americans. And that is the thrust is that we have been treated as second-class citizens. And, that historically, you look at that, the Americans were not treated well by the British. But, we've been treated as second-class citizens. So many of us are built our fortunes here, right? Franklin was a runaway. He ran away from home, showed up in Philadelphia with a couple of rolls and 2 shillings or something like that. And from that, worked as an apprentice in a print shop and built his own printing empire, right? He built the first really national newspaper, I guess, with the Pennsylvania Gazette. He took his fortune and he went into science, right? He was one of the most famous inventors in electrical circuits, maybe not No, with his work in electricity, with lightning rods and things like that, he designed a system that he laid out. He wrote a paper on it. Somebody in France took his idea and actually built his idea. And the lightning rod is still used today, right? Every tall building in the world has the lightning rods that were basically invented by Benjamin Franklin. He was, you go back to Franklin's life, he was basically a rock star. He goes to France and everyone's just thrilled that Ben Franklin is there, right? But, yeah, you've got a number of these people. They are self-made men. And there's others who are, yes, their families, like Richard Henry Lee, right? Whose opening song, the first family in the oldest colony in America, right? The Lees have been here forever, and there are definitely those as well. Or the Reverend John Witherspoon, our simple cobbler from Connecticut, right? Right. These are men from various walks of life, but they have built up a life for themselves, and they've realized that it is time. It is time for us to become a new nation. And said there are a lot of debates and a lot of stress and a lot of drama because it was a serious thing. Despite Franklin's joke, if we don't hang together, we will surely hang separately. It wasn't just, oh yeah, we're here. All right, we're to declare independence on Tuesday and we'll have a barbecue on Thursday. That's not how that worked, right? This was serious. And I think the movie said, despite all of the songs and all of the jokes that show up throughout it, really does lay out how serious this was for a lot of these people. So I definitely recommend watch 1776. I try to pull it out every year around this time anyway, because it's Independence Day, man. Let's watch the movie talking about Independence Day, right? Next week, I might watch the movie Independence Day. I don't know. Because aliens invading is a lot more fun than people in knickerbockers. I don't know. But still, it's great. I highly recommend it. And let me know what you think. If, drop a comment, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.